Yeah! Woo! Mmm! Mmm, yeah! Fucking called it! Mmm! So what the fuck am I yelling about? Let me direct you to a little video I made about, 3 or so years ago. I'd really like to see Sailor Moon jump on that hip bandwagon of true to the manga anime remakes. It would be really awesome to see Ultimate Sailor Moon Kai Sisterhood. Okay, the name needs work, but damn it, it'd be cool. Say like a year after making that video, like Sailor Moon Crystal gets announced, and I had the same reaction that I think any logical person would have. My god, I have the power to make anime reality. Trigun Maximum, Trigun Maximum, Trigun Maximum, Trigun Maximum, Trigun. Unfortunately, I found out I actually do not have the power to manifest anime, but who gives a shit? They're remaking Sailor Moon, or they've remade Sailor Moon. So yeah, the first episode of Sailor Moon Crystal has debuted, and I figured, what the hell? I'm gonna talk about it. So let's start at the beginning. How about that intro? Moon Pride. I liked it a lot. It's no Moonlight Densetsu, but it has a lot of energy. It just, it sounds good. It fits the tone of the series. And speaking of fitting the series, it is so nice to, for once, get an anime intro that was made specifically for the show. That is actually, about the characters and, what the show is. Instead of some just random J-pop bullshit that's slapped on to sell some albums. As for the episode itself, it was Sailor Moon. I don't really have too much to say about that. If you've seen the original series, then this isn't going to be too much of a change for you. Because even though the original series deviated very hard from the manga, it did stay really faithful in that first episode. Now, it doesn't mean that it's identical. There are little changes here and there to the way scenes are set up. Things happen slightly different order, and all of these changes do make it more faithful to the manga. Now, that doesn't mean that it's more faithful to the manga in every aspect. The one aspect in which the series is the least faithful to the manga is the lack of crazy, cartoony facial expressions that Usagi would display in it. In the manga, she'd get all big-headed, wide-eyed, large mouth, chibi-fied. It was very 90s. Have you ever seen Teen Titans or the new TMNT, and you hear people refer to it as, very anime style, and then you think, what do they mean anime style? Like, anime doesn't really do that shit. Well, in the 90s, it did, and those creators are obviously very influenced by that era of anime. But unfortunately, it's the 2000s, and anime doesn't do that shit anymore. It has to be, a little more serious, a little more grounded, I guess, visually. Unless we're talking some sort of crazy comedy series. So yeah, because of that, Usagi isn't as expressive as she was in the original series or in the manga. They still give her a lot of personality. And, she still gets a little crazy with the expressions, but nowhere near the extent that she did in, the former two iterations. While I'm on the topic of the visual aspects of the series, let's talk about the character designs. In a lot of ways, it is more faithful to the look of the manga. And by that I mean the hair's more flowing and detailed, the limbs are longer and more slender, they're kind of taller built. Very classic shoujo manga build and look to these characters. But the designs are also a bit more angular than what was in, the manga and the original series. So in some ways, it's more faithful to the manga's representation of the characters, and then in that other aspect, it's less faithful. But honestly, I really like the designs. I was very pleased when I initially saw them, and I was very pleased when I saw them in motion in the episode. Because personally, I was really worried that it was going to end up looking like some moe trash bullshit. With a big soft doe eyes and oversaturated colors. It was going to look like just some modern anime bullshit. But I was very pleased that they didn't go that route, and what we ended up with was a more modernized look to the classic manga. One more thing to bring up about the visuals is the animation. Okay, I have made it like no fucking secret. I do not like Toei as an animation studio. And I've had people go like, well, what the hell's wrong with Toei? I mean, they made a lot of good anime. I like a lot of their anime. Well, yeah, that's great. I mean, I like a lot of their anime too. I like One Piece. I like Sailor Moon. I liked fucking Dragon Ball Z. Obviously. But something that a lot of these shows have in common is, at least in the earlier parts of their run, they looked like shit. Look at any Toei series and then compare it to its contemporaries, and Toei looks 10 years behind. Now, that isn't quite the case for Sailor Moon here. The animation isn't exactly spectacular, in fact it isn't really even what I'd call impressive. Though the animation is very detailed and beautiful, it has a fairly low frame rate. But this episode wasn't very action-oriented, so a high frame rate really wasn't that necessary. It would have been nice, but it wasn't necessary. I just hope that in future episodes they do smooth that out a bit. Another thing I hope that gets changed in future episodes is the shading for the series. It's very smudgy and blurred. It looks more like an after effect that was thrown on the completed animation. Think like the 2000s He-Man series or the fucking Voltron Force cartoon. The shading isn't very crisp and it just looks kind of smudgy and messy and made it look cheap. And I mean, it's Toei, so it probably was cheap, but still, I like it to, you know, not look cheap. Now, as I said earlier, when compared to the original series, there are some noticeable differences in, like, certain events, and a lot of these changes reflect what was in the manga instead. The only time it really ever deviates from the manga is to throw in a little bit of padding here and there to kind of space out scenes, give them more breathing room, which I appreciate. One thing that was different, though, is Sailor Moon's lack of a mask. In the original manga, she transformed wearing a mask that she usually took off, like, 2 panels later. In the manga, she sees, like, her best friend Naru in the goggle mask thing. She, like, freaks out and throws it on the ground. That's why she doesn't wear her mask for the rest of the chapter. The new series removed the mask entirely, and instead, to alert her to Naru being in trouble, her hair bun things light up. Which was how they did it in the original series. I'm not sure why the change was made, considering aesthetically they've carried over so many other things from the manga, but it's not a big deal. It's not something I'm going to bitch about. I honestly don't care one way or the other. It was just something worth noting. So for my overall opinion on this first episode, I'd say it was very solid. Sailor Moon did for magical girls what DBZ did for shonen. It is a very important series in the history of anime. And if you've never seen the series before, I think this is a good way to introduce yourself to it. And in case you're just a lifetime Moonie like myself, well, you've probably already seen it. But on that sliver of a chance that you haven't yet, I highly recommend you go check it out. It's totally worth your time. Well guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video because this is certainly not the last one of these you're going to be seeing. I plan on doing a new one every 2 weeks as the series is coming out. And as each new episode comes out, I plan on reading the chapter of the manga that the episode was based off of, as well as the corresponding episode of the original TV series. So I can give like a good comparison of like things that were changed and things that were retained between all versions. Well, that pretty much sums up everything I had to say for this video. I'm Zeon, and Moon Pride, motherfuckers!